next category is top female athlete of 2021, and this is the fourth award of the night, and this is the first clean sweep. Sorry, Thunder, we're sorry for this, but we know this is going to change in 2022 because we have hopefully have this crystal ball of what we're seeing going forward in 2022. That this is the slow play, like Britt's, helping transform the division. It started in February when that main event, the first women's main event, which we pushed with that lights out unsanctioned match, it started with that. And then with Britt getting the gold and going on this, the crowd just being so over for her. But ultimately, we know the seeds are still being planted and watered for the rematch, the Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker feud. And that is what we're starting to get little tastes here and there. We started to get a little taste the past few months of it because with the 3-on-3. Oh, no. But we have to give props where props are due because Britt Baker has been a great champ. And she wouldn't be as good of a champ if she didn't have opponents and other athletes that would lift her up as well. She's helping to elevate the women's division, along with, as we have said, there's a core of 4, 5, 6 women that are just top tier in AEW right now. Obviously, the 1-2 pick that we always go back and forth is Thunder and Britt Baker. And
my top 2 picks in my draft.
That's right. In our fantasy draft, you went
the fantasy draft. My first pick and second pick, Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, for a reason. I thought that the work those 2 women did really set the bar for women's wrestling in 2021. And although we've been very vocal that Britt's championship reign hasn't quite hit with certain bumps along the way how we expected,
sure.
I will say, as the DMD fanboy of this
heel of the group,
the guy who's been preaching her greatness from day one, I'll say this: Britt is complete of a package in pro wrestling right now that I can turn to. And here's why: every single week, her segments, whether on the mic or in the ring, you can count on them to be consistently fantastic. I know that this is not a shock to anyone who watches us regularly. I see greatness in Britt Baker. I've said it from very early on. She's got she checks all the boxes. She's so confident, so articulate, and her promos are vicious. She could just with a scalpel can just cut people down to size. Just brilliant in the way that she executes those, and she's transformed her character to being a pillar of AEW. MJF was told that recently by CM Punk. The DMD is a pillar of this company, and I think that 2021, as Britt said, was the year of the DMD. I think that 2022 might be a little different. And I agree with
there
USPD.
Might be some more noise. There might be some
I agree with USPD that I've been calling for DMD versus Thunder to be revisited basically since summer. So I'm chomping at the bit for those 2 to get their hands on each other again.
It's almost been a year.
It's been way too long.
And we're still talking about it. We're still talking about that feud. And at the time, and still to this day, we have said that has been one of the strongest feuds in AEW's history, period. There's been a lot of great feuds, as we're seeing right now, Jericho, MJF, and as we'll talk with the feud of the year and stuff down the line. But overall, ever since these 2 started going at each other, you talk about those backstage promos where Britt Baker washed off the face paint, how brutal that was. And then the attacks by Thunder and the back and forth. And then just the ultimate brutal ending of the match where Thunder Rosa won that unsanctioned match through in epic fashion. And I loved how AEW did that package where they showed the backstage, just everyone standing ovation. We were at home standing ovation, just like in awe, almost speechless. You go back and watch our Dynamite Download recap show. And, I didn't have any expectations. I had no idea what to expect. I knew that the delivery by both performers was going to be spot on. But it was that and tenfolds.
here's the thing, and I want Bonds to. I'm going to pitch it to you here, Bonds.
Okay.
You and I have had a lot of conversation about this, and the reason why the DMD was my pick is because she's so head and shoulders. She has been so head and shoulders above so many of her counterparts in this division when it comes to her promo game.
Yeah.
And that's something that you talked about has been almost a handicap of her world championship reign, is that there are very few competitors who can go toe-to-toe with Britt on the mic. And that's why Thunder worked, because her fire and her passion and her energy, even though English is not her first language in a lot of ways, she feels most comfortable cutting her promos in Spanish, which I love some of that fire, that natural fire and energy that comes out of Thunder in those promos. But there are very few people who can hang with Britt on the mic. And that's one of the things that I know that differentiated Britt to me in the rest of the landscape of AEW. And I know that you really got me thinking of that pattern when we got to see Britt's title reign start to unfold. And I was put in a position where I had to defend Britt all the time. And you kind of jumped in and said, Crayfish, here's part of the reason why that title reign isn't hitting like that. So tell me about it.
Man, you pretty much explained it, dude.
With no respect. Hey, Thunder, I promise you, stick around. You're gonna see a lot of love.
I'm sure you'll enjoy this much more after we're done with this segment.
Top face of the year.
Let's get Bonds through his moment so we can take her face off the screen. I have a feeling that Thunder wants to close off.
Three people behind you, Thunder. If you ever need backup, you know who to call. We'll be there for you.
But man, like you said,
unless you're facing the DMD, apparently.
Yeah, right. But man, part of why we want that Thunder versus Britt feud is because, like you said, there's an equality there. There's like the level of talent and the level of mic work and in-ring stuff is just so epic and perfect and awesome. Like, I struggled really hard with my match of the year because of that match. That was probably my favorite women's match I've ever seen. Her and Thunder at that main event was probably my favorite women's match I've ever seen ever. And I've been watching wrestling since I was 5.
It's a bar set high that's going to be hard to top.
Yeah. And that's why, man, like we talked about, it's so jarring when you go from that epic, awesome match of the year candidate to stuff that's not as quality. And so for Britt, I'm ready for that feud because we know what it can be. We know it can be the best feud in AEW.
Preach.
And we're ready, man. Tony Khan, if you're watching, man, we like marinating and waiting on stuff, but this one we're tired of waiting on, man.
We're ready.
To be a world title feud, especially now that Thunder's got some time. So it's time for this, man. I want to see that feud. I want it to continue. It's awesome.
You're right, man. Do you guys want to talk about feud of the year since we keep talking about
feud?
it?
Let's transition into it.
Let's do it.